It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners. And with me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
If you're planning on retiring in 5 years, what should you be focused on today, not only in your finances, but also in your life overall? And KFG has helped over 1,000 people retire, so we're going to help you with that and more coming up on this hour of the Wise Money Show.
Financial planning, I've often said, this is where real life and finances intersect. Your finances and the structure and your planning, that's not an end. It's a means for you to live the life that you're called to. And if part of that is retiring, then what should you be doing right now in order to retire and thrive in your life if you're planning on retiring in 5 years? We're helping with that right now. If you have a question for the program, we'd love to hear from you. You can call or text us 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. We were talking to a friend recently, all three of us were, and he's retiring later this year. And I think, Josh, you asked him, you're like, you start the countdown. Do you have a date set? And he said officially he's counting it down. I think there's even apps or whatever that you can use that count down, weeks and hours and minutes and all that sort of stuff. I've had clients show me that before, but yeah, the countdown has begun.
Yeah. Maybe 5 years would be a little early to begin that, I think. But today we're at least going to be covering, well, what are the things that you should be thinking about and doing right now if you have a 5-year runway to retirement?
So nice and easy round number when we're recording this, 2025. Let's just assume, let's plan. All right, what if you're retiring in 2030? And the way I'd frame it, actually, the way we're approaching the show is Kevin mentioned we've at KFG have helped over 1,000 folks retire, and you want to retire once and you haven't retired yet, and so you want to do it well. We've helped lots of folks retire, and so if we were retiring in 5 years, this is stuff that we'd be doing right now to be ready to thrive and transition off that paycheck.
Well, and it would be real easy, as three financial planners to go straight to the financial aspect of getting ready for retirement. That's maybe where our minds are naturally pointed towards. But, man, I got to tell you, as we have helped more and more clients through the transition from their working career into retirement, I'm realizing that there's more work to be done than just the financial side. And, I'm thinking of some clients who have actually postponed their retirement mostly because they didn't have clarity on what they were going to do with their time. And I don't think 5 years is too far out for you to begin really starting to focus or fine-tune your vision for what's your lifestyle going to be? Where are you going to live? What are you going to do? Even down to the point of, do you have sort of a prototype of what you think your schedule is going to be? Because all of a sudden, instead of structuring your life around a work schedule and having that be sort of the central theme often in your calendar, what if there was kind of a hole there, and how are you going to replace that time? Mm-hmm. And some of this might be exactly what gets you the most fired up and excited about retirement, because there's things that you really want to pour yourself into. But if you lack that, the risk is that you enter into retirement and you're like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah. So inviting you to dream a little bit today, daydream a little bit. If you're not already in retirement, spend a little bit of time contemplating, well, what would if I was retired right now, yes, it's Saturday, what would I get up and do? On Monday, what would my day look like? What would be my most important priorities? Where would I find joy and purpose and meaning? And what would you want calling you into retirement, as opposed to, well, I've got to, yeah, if you're 5 years out and you've already started that countdown app, you are fleeing something. But really, the folks that thrive in retirement are called to something new. They are retiring into something, not retiring away from something. So we're going to talk about several different things, often like going around the 6 areas of your financial life. But what should you be doing right now? What would we be doing right now if we were retiring in 5 years? And it's got to start with the plan. It's got to start with constructing or working through all 6 areas of your financial life. Because as we talk about the different priorities and check boxes or touch points that you've got to hit 5 years out, if you don't have a framework where you're looking at all 6 areas of your financial life, then you're certainly going to miss something.
And it wouldn't be too early to say this same advice at the 10-year out mark.
Right.
But if you don't have a certified financial planner that you're working with to build out a true vision for what your retirement's going to look like and what financial resources are going to be needed to fund that life that you're picturing, then it's time. 10 years isn't too early. 5 years isn't too early. We have folks who show up right on the doorstep of retirement. Whatever time you have, the first step is get the plan built.
Yeah, and before we even get into what those steps are for building that retirement plan, if you think about it, retirement planning is one of the 6 areas of your financial life. But successfully retiring, you've got to look at each area of your financial life. Kevin, if you want to walk through what those are.
Yeah, so the 6 areas, your present financial position, and that is looking at your cash flow. This is a huge deal because most people do or do not have a budget. But I'm saying if you're 5 years out from retirement, a lot has changed in your financial life, and you're probably on a trajectory where things are going to be staying mostly the same over the next 5 years. Likely, if we're just profiling, if I'm 55 and I'm retiring at 60, or if I'm 60 and retiring at 65. So,
but here's a risk though, because if you're 5 years out from retirement, most likely you're in your peak earning years. You've probably, if you had children, they're launched from the nest, I'm assuming. You may be big income and potentially less expenses than what you just came through, maybe the college years or whatever. And so getting dialed in on your cash flow at this point is really, really important because I don't know about all of you listening, but I'll speak for myself. Human nature is that as your income grows, your lifestyle increases as well. And you could start filling up all of that peak earning year type income with lifestyle and sort of setting yourself maybe on a new lifestyle and a new plane almost, and get used to something that may or may not be sustainable depending on the planning and the preparation, the resources that you've built up for retirement.
So you want it to be totally dialed in. And this is where I've seen, and I just have another thought that I just have to say, because Mike, as you were talking about, the plan, like work with a certified financial planner right now. I always say work with a planner and make sure they're certified. So work with a certified financial planner right now, because we have lots of folks that come to us and they don't say, I've got 5 years until retirement. They say, I've got 5 months until retirement. Yeah. So I'd say, don't wait. Run, don't walk to your CFP. So the first area is your present financial position. You're talking about your budgeting and your cash flow, but also your net worth and tracking where are your assets. We were doing a case class this week, and we were looking at a new client that we're going to be helping, and we looked at all of their assets and where they were. There's no way this client had any kind of clarity on what they have because you couldn't do it. You couldn't get clarity. So get an operating system that gives you great clarity on what you have, and makes your financial life decisionable at all times. Again, that's something your CFP can help you with.
The second area, protection planning. This is looking at the 5 major financial risks that we all deal with, and whether you should transfer that risk or you are self-insured, that sort of stuff. We're going to talk about that. You've got to address that if you're 5 years out from retirement. Third area is tax planning, not tax preparation. This is getting proactive about what opportunities exist for you to pay the least amount of tax, ideally over your lifetime. Most people just look and say, I want to pay the least amount of tax today. Well, that is great. Ideally over your lifetime, if not multiple lifetimes. Fourth area is investment planning. What are your strategies? How much risk is appropriate for you? And what do you have? How should it be structured? Fifth area is retirement planning. We're going to focus on that here in just a second. And then the last area of your financial life, sixth area, is estate planning. All of that, that's the context now. That's the lens. I don't see how, if you're 5 years out from retirement, I don't see how you can execute a great retirement game plan without looking at all 6 of those areas. You have to. That's where you need to start working with the CFP, making sure they're certified. After that, what do you need to do to retire successfully in 5 years? Is that more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group? Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show. It airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning. Also on podcasts at the same time, and also on a couple local radio stations at the same time as well, which is why the content's broken up the way that it is. And I know for YouTube, this can be a little long form. If you're looking for something more digestible, more direct and straight to the point, we've got Next Wise Step videos that air all throughout the work week, as well as shorts and other things. And so make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're aware every time we drop new content. If you like the content, thank you very much. All right. I know we didn't fully same page this one. I sort of said, we're going to do this and we can talk about it. And we never talked about it. The idea was first start with the 6 areas and then hit the 5 factors and then the other items as well. So just, I'm sorry if I didn't make that abundantly clear.
I think that's how you have it laid out. That's good.
Okay. All right. So we'll get into 5 factors. Let's do that. Meow. If you're planning on retiring 5 years from now, 2030, what should you be doing right now? We're helping with that. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios are my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. Okay, retirement. It takes a long time to plan up for, and you've got to look at all 6 areas of your financial life in order to create the right game plan. From there, once you're doing comprehensive financial planning and looking at all 6 areas, how do you build the right retirement plan, the right retirement picture, the right retirement strategy? Well, we call that the 5-factor retirement plan.
And we've talked about this at length on this show. We've done entire shows about the 5 factors of retirement planning. But just to kind of recap those and remind you of what you need to be considering if you're 5 years out. If you've already declared and defined 5 years out from today is the start of your retirement, then you've really already answered one of the questions, and that is, at what age are you going to retire? It just takes a bigger sum of money or bigger resources to be able to retire at 55 compared to 60. And it's more at 60 than at age 65 because your age of retirement is defining how long retirement's going to be. We assume that your life expectancy is fixed for yourself. There's some date out there in the future that all of us are going to end retirement. I'll say it that way. We're all going to pass away someday. But when do you begin retirement? That's going to determine, is retirement for you 20 years long? Is it 30 years long? What is it? So age of retirement matters. And I always encourage people, be open to or flexible on the age of retirement until you have worked with your certified financial planner to define what it's going to take to pull that off. Sometimes retiring just 1 or 2 years later allows you to do so much more preparation. It allows you to be in such a much stronger position financially that your outlook and your probability of success improves dramatically just by adjusting the age of retirement. But that's one of your big decisions that you have to make.
And the second factor in retirement, and this touches on these 6 areas, but how much do you expect to spend in retirement? What's your retirement lifestyle? That includes things like your normal spending, but it also includes things like debt, if you still have a mortgage or if you'll have car loans, that sort of thing. What about health insurance? How are you going to, what's that going to cost? Taxes as well, and then an inflation component. The thing that we would encourage here, especially 5 years out, is be honest. be honest. You might know, hey, I'm wanting my CFP. I'm wanting the numbers to come back favorable. I want the result of the planning to tell me I'm on track to retire. Therefore, I've heard this before. I'll spend whatever I need to in order to, if you tell me I can be done working. Well, listen, life is going to be different. Right now, when you're working, you probably don't spend a lot of money on a typical Tuesday. You probably spend more money on Saturday. Well, in retirement, if it's 6 Saturdays and 1 Sunday, if you're not honest about your spending up front, you might be having a false positive. You might have a plan that is not accurate and making the biggest financial decision of your life based on false information.
Mm-hmm. Kevin was mentioning in the last segment how important it is to get dialed in on your budgeting, especially if you've got a 5-year runway to retirement, because you're building up not only great habits and control over your finances, you're also building confidence. And I got to tell you, when I think back over my entire career, the clients that have been the most successful in retirement, they went into retirement with a long track record of fully controlling their spending. They always lived within their means, whatever those were. And if there were some bigger income years, that's great. If there were lower income years, they were able to adjust. And, to me, the spending number in retirement is one of the key variables, because if you go a little bit high on your spending, it can have some pretty significant impact on the probability that your money is going to last as long as it needs to.
Income in retirement, that's the third factor. How are you going to optimize Social Security? That's the universal decision that we all get to make in this factor. Do you draw immediately like everyone, or is there a pause? Do you say, no, I'm going to optimize and I'm going to delay until January, or I'm going to delay a couple years, working with your CFP to determine what's best there. If you have other sources of retirement income like a pension or rental income, that sort of thing, this is where you're identifying what those are, determining whether they're going to grow with inflation or if they're stable, how long they're going to last, and being clear on that factor.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, maybe 5 years out from retirement, you're feeling good, you're feeling healthy, you're maybe still enjoying your work at some level, and you may believe that in retirement you're going to keep on working. Also, you might even be tempted to bake that into your game plan for retirement. I'm going to work so many hours, or I'm going to have so much income. And I would just caution against that, not against the willingness to work. I think that helps keep us socially engaged. It helps keep us young, keeps our mind sharp and everything. But you don't necessarily know whether or not you're still going to be as willing 5 years from now, or what if you're not as able because of some health concerns. If your plan only works if you're earning $15,000 a year and that $15,000 is suddenly plucked out of the plan because you're not able to actually pull it off, that has also some devastating impact on your retirement outlook.
Yeah. Fourth factor is how much you have saved up for retirement and how much you are saving. So this is the total amount that you've accumulated for this retirement goal, as well as what do you plan on saving? Are you saving 10%, 15%? What's the match? Are you doing a Roth IRA as well? Is your HSA repurposed to be a retirement asset? That's the fourth factor. And then fifth is how much investment risk are you comfortable taking with those dollars? Oftentimes in your career, you're comfortable taking a lot of risk, but as you transition into retirement, do you want to transition to less risk? Do you want to transition to no risk? That's going to have a big influence. So those are the 5 factors. And the key here is, yes, both identifying and being accurate, like being honest with yourself about those, but knowing that they're interrelated. Mm-hmm. You make a decision in one, it's going to influence your options in choices in the other.
And ultimately, what your certified financial planner is hopefully coaching you along on is your decisions in these 5 areas are having an impact on what your probability of success is. Essentially, what they're doing is they're helping you to build a stress test of your preferred retirement. And what if it could be quantified for you? What if you had confidence that there's an 89% or a 92% probability of success that your money's going to last as long as you will? You would want to know that with time to make adjustments. Yep. And that's what's so great about a 5-year window, that you're really getting focused on retirement. There's time to make the adjustments, as Mike was saying, to these 5 factors.
Right. And as I look at those 5 factors, one of the things, if I had 5 years to go, I would do the dress rehearsal and say, hey, this is what we think we're going to live on. So let's try living on it right now. And then I would also get focused really on my balance sheet and say, what are the things that I need to clean up, change, adjust, and make sure they're not there?
Yep. I got a resource for you. We have a resource for you. Go to wisemoneyguides.com. If you want to take your first step, if you haven't sat down with the CFP just yet and mapped out this 5-factor for you, this can be your first step. It's workbook like where you can go through each of these 5 factors, answer some of the preliminary questions, get you thinking and get you ready for that stress testing and that analysis working with your CFP. Go to wisemoneyguides.com. You can download it there. That can be your first step and help you get clarity. If you're 5 years out from retirement and you haven't built that 5-factor retirement plan just yet, that's a great first step to do. Guys, even for those that are more than 5 years out, when would you say time to build that 5-factor retirement plan? 30s? Is that too early? Should you wait until 40s? What do you guys think?
I would. I don't. It doesn't matter where you are. I'd build it knowing that the only thing that is certain about your financial goals is that they're going to change over time.
Yeah.
And so to me, that kind of kaleidoscope of changing, adjusting, manipulating, looking back and saying, "Oh, can you remember when it used to be like that, and now it's like this?"
Of all the 5 factors, the earlier you are in getting started, the younger you are, the amount you're saving and the amount of risk that you're willing to take, how you structure your investments is the key. Yeah. So if getting started on your financial planning really is a springboard to getting started in the savings pattern, that's ultimately where you win.
All right. You need to have a comprehensive approach to your finances, looking at all 6 areas. Then you need to build out that 5-factor retirement plan. But then what else? What else should you be focused on right now if your plan, your hope was to retire 5 years from now? We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Oh, you cracked me up.
That is so funny.
And I
want Lindsay to go back when I started talking about cleaning up your balance sheet, because Mike has a certain look that's it's the, hey, you've just jumped forward in the agenda and you've screwed up the whole show look. And as soon as I saw it,
how often do you get that look?
Huh?
How often do you get that look?
Oh, about once a show. So I looked and I'm like, oh no, I did it again. But I think we can. I mean, it
doesn't matter.
No, I think it's great foreshadowing. I think if I was a consultant to this show, I would say do more of that. Just pull some of the later in the show items into the early in the show. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Tax planning. Here we go. Third segment. To be on track, to retire with confidence in 5 years, that's really the key. Clarity and confidence is what your CFP should be providing, as well as creativity, creative ways to achieve those goals. But you want to, when you think about retirement, it's not just getting there and being done with work. It's being confident when doing so. So many people retire and are unsure. Their investments, their cash flow, their income, they're unsure. You want confidence. We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, just search the Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there. Rate the program there as well. We appreciate it. Talking about what we would be doing right now if we were retiring 5 years out, 2030, as a way to position you, whether you're 5 years out, 3 years out, 10 years out. What are the things that you should be considering and approaching? 6 areas of your financial life need to take that approach. Build out that 5-factor retirement plan. Go to wisemoneyguides.com, download the guide, and get some help with that. After that, I would be tuning into my tax planning, not just tax preparation, tax planning, and I would be building out, not only confirming my tax strategies for the last few years of my career, but I'd be building out that multi-year tax projection to see what tax bracket do I think I'll be in the future. You need that to have an accurate retirement plan, but also that's going to reveal some opportunities.
Yeah, it sure is. And in fact, this is one of the places where not only do we talk about multi-year tax projections, but multi-generational as well. As you're zeroing in on retirement, you may be getting to a stage in life where your own retirement assets are going to be accessible to you, and that has certain tax ramifications out there in the future. But what if you're also in line to receive some sort of an inheritance? Often that's happening as you have aging parents. You're getting closer to retirement. They're getting further into their own retirement. And having on your radar, what might there be as far as an impact from their assets, that if there are leftovers at the end of their retirement that they leave behind to you as a next generation, what impact will that have on your tax picture? And so planning far enough in advance to your retirement, are there things that you could be doing to reposition assets or maybe neutralize some of your own tax burdens? Deal with it now so that you have capacity to deal with maybe some unexpected or even anticipated inheritance down the road.
If you said, "Give me what's the big idea?" If I could do anything in the next 5 years before I retire, I would be building out tax diversification.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got because really what I'm trying to do is I think of the janitor at the high school that used to walk through. And do you ever see the key ring that those guys had? I mean, they had so many different keys. You're like, how in the world do they even know which doors those things go to? But that's what you want to have in your financial life. You want to have a bunch of keys to unlock any door that you would possibly want to enter. And so what could I do 5 years from now to manipulate my income either up or down?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost to me, the other analogy that I would come up with is scuba diving. So when you're scuba diving, you're trying to be able to stay and basically hover at a certain level. And so with my income, I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm down 75 feet, and I'm trying to stay at that level. So how do I stay there and minimize the oxygen consumption in my tank? And
Interesting analogy.
That tax diversification is a critical point, and I would say the 5 years out from retirement, you still have enough of your career left where you can make a dent in that. If you should automate all your savings. That's one of the principles, one of the habits. All of your savings should be automated, but that doesn't mean you turn your brain off or you stop and you don't reconsider. Are these still the right tax shelters? Mm-hmm. We talk about having the right tax shelter strategy. I mean, that's where if you've been contributing pre-tax all of your life, you've got $1 million saved up or whatever, that's not all yours. A chunk of that's Uncle Sam's. You don't have tax diversification. Maybe it's time to start funneling your contributions into Roth. Maybe you do some Roth conversions. If you've already got both, not that you'd want to give up some tax benefits, but maybe you start building a non-tax shelter bucket as well, if it makes sense for you to do so, just so you've got some tax diversification.
It's another one of the hallmarks of clients that we've watched over the years be really successful in retirement. We said earlier in the show, they often have real crystal clarity on their cash flow. They have control over the budget, that sort of thing. They can dial up and dial down their spending, but they also have multiple types of buckets to draw from. They've got the Roth IRA. They have traditional IRA assets. They maybe have a trust account or some joint account that is not tax sheltered, but fully accessible to them. And so their ability, I like your analogy again, Kevin, their ability to choose what level of income they're hovering at in retirement it's just enhanced. They're in a better spot to do it.
Right. Because if all you have is just pre-tax retirement assets, you're kind of limited.
Yeah.
And that's great. And for lots of folks, that's all they have. But if you said, hey, I've got 5 years, what might I do? And that's all I have. Start building that tax diversification.
Yep. So that tax planning, that proactive tax work, absolutely 5 years out, you've got to be tuned into that. The other one, this is very timely right now. With the volatility that we've seen in the markets this year, the closer you get to retirement, or if you're in retirement, this may even be more concerning. Well, the right investment strategies, the right investment approach as you enter retirement, as you approach retirement, as you enter retirement, That can make all the difference between whether you're sleeping with peace at night or whether you're up worried about your finances. 5 years out from retirement, you've got to start crafting, all right, wait a second, we're reaching the peak of this mountain. What's the walk down going to look like? And do we need to start adjusting and implementing a different investment strategy so that as we get to retirement, we've got peace of mind and confidence?
You know, there's a principle in the pension world called asset dedication, or another phrase that's sometimes used is liability matching. And basically, this is you thinking out on a time horizon and saying, what are my needs going to be each year out over the next 10 years, let's say. There might be some years where there's a spike in cash flow needs because you're planning a big project or a big vacation or something like that. Maybe there's some other years where it's more of a dull roar and a typical lifestyle for you. But the idea then is to match up assets that are invested with the same time horizon on when you're going to be needing access to the money. So let's take, for example, the first 2 or 3 years of retirement. That is a time frame that you wouldn't have long-term growth-oriented investments that are going to be funding the first couple years of retirement. You want something safe and stable, maybe that's really very calm and just earning a little bit of interest, because there's no time to let it bounce back if it happens to take a dip right on the eve of retirement. But on the other hand, the opposite end of the spectrum, there is some of the money that you've been building up in your retirement nest egg that is not going to be spent for 15, 20, maybe more years. And by definition, that is a long time frame and should have growth-oriented investments attached to it. And so getting, more specific and almost dividing up your overall portfolio into different segments or different chunks that serve a different purpose and therefore should be using a different investment vehicle. This is part of you getting ready for retirement, and 5 years out is not too early to start that.
If I was retiring in 5 years, I would be taking a look at my portfolio and saying, all right, what dollars am I going to draw from first? And I would start looking and saying, well, how are those currently invested, and should they be invested a little bit differently? Whether that's a 5-year individual bond, some sort of bond ladder, CD ladder, treasury, something like that, or whether I'm comfortable with the risk. But I would start to look and say, well, matching liabilities, like you mentioned, Josh, and get ready to fully implement what we call a personal pension plan, which is as you approach retirement and maybe 1 to 2 years from retirement, implementing a more bucketing system we've explained before. But I want to mention one other thing. 5 years out from retirement, you also want to embrace and take advantage of volatility. This might be, maybe not at the rate we're going, but this might be the last opportunity you have to buy the dip, to invest dollars during a highly volatile time and buy shares when they're temporarily depressed in value so that you get an outsized rebound and return. Taking advantage of that, having the mentality and the right approach to take advantage of that, I'd be tuning into that right now. We've got more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Yes.
That's good.
Well, and should we say that, there are strategies that you can get most of or at least some of the goodies, but you're not.
You got defined downside protection?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got buffered and hedged and all kinds of cool stuff.
Going into the fifth, it feels like we're going into the fifth segment. Going into the fourth segment, so we've got to land the plane. There's a lot to talk about. So, Kevin, you might have been spot on with talking about the balance sheet earlier. I'm tempted, we can build that in, or maybe I can just give an honorable mention to that. And then
what?
To the using different strategies and.
Oh yeah.
But then I want to go to pulling some of your retirement. I found the quote, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it reset. Now it's gone. But I think I want to do that one. If we can hit that one and then the Medicare Social Security, I think I'd be
I don't know what that one is, the quote that you're referring to.
Pulling some of your retirement goals or retirement lifestyle into your career.
Oh, okay.
If you're 5 years out and you have a goal of going to Hawaii,
why wait until?
I feel like go to Hawaii now. If you want to buy that new vehicle, like I think people used to want to do when they retired before vehicles got so expensive, do it now. So if you want to start a new hobby, if you want to take up painting, if you think you're going to relocate,
Yeah, I mean, well,
start doing.
think about that.
now.
If you want to buy that new vehicle when you retire, start saving $1,000 a month right now. That's 60 months. That'll get you. Was that buy half a new car now?
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
All right, here we go. 4th segment, land the plane. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show, as well as a lot of other content, is on the Wise Money YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Turn on notifications here and everywhere every time we drop new content. If you like the content, you can share it there. You can leave questions there as well. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show. Talking about what we would be doing right now if we were retiring in 5 years. And what should you be doing? What should you be focused on right now if you're planning to retire in 5 years? Left off on and crafting the right investment strategy. And oftentimes, that includes multiple strategies. The typical strategy is diversification. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. However, during really extreme times, all of those baskets can move in the same direction at the same time. And plus, diversification can be wildly frustrating. Does it work? Yes. Will you like it? No. As you approach retirement and get into retirement, one of the strategies you may want to consider is tools where you can participate in a large portion of the upside, if not all the upside, with some very clear downside protection as well. These are hedges or buffers or whatever, but working with your CFP, seeing if those make sense 5 years out from retirement, it's not too soon to be considering that. The phrasing that I would use is you want to be very clear where you're playing offense in your portfolio and very clear on where you're playing defense. If it's unclear to you, run, don't walk to your CFP. Make sure that your investment strategies are connected to your financial goals. Next, if you're 5 years out from retirement, Kevin shared this quote with Josh and I just a couple weeks ago. I would start pulling some of your retirement lifestyle goals or some of what you envision retirement going to be like. I'd start pulling that into your career. And Kevin, feel free to elaborate on that. But what I was just sharing before the break, a small example. If you have this dream, when we retire, we're going to go to Hawaii. We're going to go to Hawaii. Go to Hawaii right now. I can tell you, even though you go spend 10 days and then have to come back and go to work, writing the check or paying for Hawaii while you know you've got income coming in from your employer is going to feel better than doing it when you're retired. So look at those things that you envision, my retirement's going to be about that, and start making your life about that now.
Right, especially because as you look at your bucket list, a lot of this really is about planning. And it's just sitting down with your spouse and saying, what is the vision for what we want to do? And what of these things should wait until we have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday? Or what should we be doing now? And I'm going to say, depending on the amount of influence you have in your career, you probably can get some flexibility. And so if you can get some flexibility, hey, I've got 4 weeks of vacation, I've got 6 weeks of vacation. If you can work with your employer to kind of bunch that up and say, yep, we went to Hawaii and we really love it, and we want a place on Hawaii. Okay, well, now you know what you're doing. Or you say, all right, we went to Hawaii, that was cool. We really don't need to do that again. That we can check that off the bucket list, because the thing that I always thought when I was younger is, all right, if you retire and you want to go to Hawaii and you want to do the Alaskan cruise and there's these other things you want to do, and then you go and do them, you think, well, you want to do them again. And I've seen time after time clients, they retire, they go do those things, and then they're like, okay, we've done that. And I'm like, so you're going to go back to Alaska? No, we did that. It's already done. So what is it? What's next? What's this? Where Where are you going to continue to grow in your influence? Is it in your community, in your church, in your grandchildren's lives? What are you doing, and what's the vision for not only just your life, but also for your money?
Another potential benefit from all of that is there's a certain number of folks listening today who maybe they really are 5 years out from retirement and they're wondering, what should I be doing next? Some of them 5 years out might feel like a stretch. Like, I hope I can make it 5 more years. I'm feeling burned out. I'm feeling tired. I am feeling unfulfilled. Whatever that might cause you to cut 5 years down to 4 or down to 3. And it is so common as well. A lot of people, we've talked in the past about the statistics, number of folks who say, I'm going to retire at age 65, and they actually retire at 63. It's a lot of people who end up retiring early. So what if what you guys are describing, taking that vacation, getting involved in a new ministry or a new community events or whatever, something that brings you some joy and some fulfillment, and that actually extends your ability to keep going in your career. Yep. It keeps you motivated. It helps you fill your bucket back up. What if through the work that you're doing with your certified financial planner, you discover, I thought I was 5 years out for retirement, but man, it's looking like I actually need it to be 6 or 7 years before retirement. How do you make it that far? Part of it is having a sustainable life right now, one that is bringing you joy and again, helping you fill up your bucket so you can keep going.
I think if you're in the mindset of, well, I'm working right now and I'm just grinding, but when I retire, I'll be able to do what I love. How would you define do what you love? And are there some pieces that you can start implementing right now? Because you're not promised your health, you're not promised your spouse, you're not promised your community, your families. Like, things can change. And so make it about the journey, not the destination.
You guys have both read Peter Attia's book, right? The Outlive, I think is the name of the book. He kind of talks readers through an exercise that really is kind of bouncing around in my brain still. And he's talking about the envisioning what your life is going to be like in those later years. Think retirement. What age will you be? And what are the activities that you want to be able to do out there in the future? And then he takes, an approach that says, well, what do you need to be able to do right now physically? If you want to go hike in the mountains or something, are you capable of doing it right now? Are you maintaining the right strength and flexibility and endurance? Or is there actually some work that you need to do physically or from a health standpoint so that your vision of retirement is doable? Yep. And that's really what you guys are talking about. Don't wait. Right?
Yeah. What does he talk about? I'm enjoying my grandkids, and therefore I'm going to do goblet squats right now so that I can pick up a baby and not have to, worry about blowing my back out or whatever. But all right, last thing we're gonna talk about, we're gonna hit is, if I'm 5 years out from retirement, I am starting to learn about the social systems that we have, Medicare and Social Security, and I'm making some trial decisions. What do I mean by that? I've got enough information and I've worked with my CFP to build them into my plan that I've had some initial, this is likely what I'm going to do with Medicare. This is likely what we're going to do with Social Security, while remaining flexible. Okay. Both of those systems, you've heard those terms before, and we talk about them a lot. Hopefully you've gotten a lot of the education here from us in the Wise Money Show. They're wildly complicated. And there's big choices involved. Some of the biggest decisions that you'll make in your life. You want to start understanding those choices, understanding the nuances and factors that apply to your specific and unique situation, and start making some, this seems to make the most sense, but remain flexible. Yeah. So I would do that by working with your CFP, but they might be bringing in a Medicare expert. They should be able to talk through everything with Social Security with you, but might bring in some other professionals as well to begin that education, that trial decision process.
Right, and understanding those social benefits. I mean, this has such a strong tie-in with the rest of your financial life, especially with your income levels.
Yeah.
And we talk about hovering at a certain level. I would say, make sure you know if you don't hover at that level, if you go up or down, what does that do to your eligibility and other things?
You know, as we wind down, if we can end where we started, I think I would emphasize the idea that the very first thing on your list, if you're trying to get yourself ready for retirement 5 years from now, is get your plan in place. And that involves getting your team in place.
Yeah.
And it is important to have, yes, a certified financial planner, but someone who also works with a CPA, someone who has investment expertise that can carry you through retirement. And do they have part of their team the insurance experts that you're going to be leaning on as you make these types of decisions when you get into retirement? Pick your team now. Begin building trust with them. Have a track record with them. And then when you get to retirement, you'll be entering into a new phase with great confidence because you're surrounded by the right people.
Wise Money Guides as well is where you can take one first step. Download the guide, start that 5-factor planning process. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Corhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Corhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Corhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.